Let's also look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, then the administration was different. We're still under military rule as at that time.
Yes.
Right now, we are under civilian rule, civilian administration.
Yes, civil rule. Civil rule.
Some people have coined that a little differently. But yes, but the thing is, doesn't that also make a difference? Because what we've also seen is a different approach. It was under civil administration that we had the amnesty program. Yes. It's under a civil administration that we're beginning to, hear even more loud calls for a national conference, which eventually has been heeded.
Well, eventually heeded, but the truth also is that in asking for, don't forget that it is the Nigerian experience that for many years we go through elections, but the elections rarely reflect what we say by our votes or what we mean by our votes. Every election has been queried in Nigeria. And it is not just that they are queried, it is because people have lost confidence. And unless you are sure that you have the powers, if you have beliefs in a particular area and you are not satisfied, you have, at the end of the day, the potential is there for you to use that simple valve to change what you are criticizing. If there is that confidence, there is that assurance, then there may be, yes, some patience, but that would not on its own stop agitations. Because take the example of United Kingdom and Scotland. As we speak, a lot of agitations for autonomy for the Scottish. Now, but it's going through a whole process that people can relate to, can understand. And nobody is saying that no, the unity of the Great Britain is, cannot be discussed. And yet they are discussing it. And what they are doing is discussing the unity of that country.
Don't you think that we should take it one step at a time? Because one of the things that you mentioned that struck me is, when you said that when people say that they don't feel attached to the central government, their hearts are not there.
Yes.
Isn't that one of the things that this conference is meant to address? The reason why people's hearts will not be in a central government, and see what they can, making the most out of it without necessarily compromising the unity, as such. But let's see how it grows. Isn't this a first step of some sort to, ensuring equity at whatever level and ensuring that people are satisfied? Because you also recall that during the time when the regions were allowed to develop, it was seen that the agitation to go separate ways was far less than we have right now.
Yeah, but precisely what we are saying. For instance, if the intentions regarding the conference are genuine, at least I can say that the Yoruba people, for instance, will go into that conference. But the truth is that they are also wary of the intentions. But they are ready to take up the gauntlet.
Till this moment?
To take up, they are ready.
The intention?
Pardon?
People are still worried about the intention.
When I speak of intentions now, is there any motive behind the conference that has just suddenly, found favor with government? Now, but we are happy that the conference is on the table. We certainly would take up the gauntlet. We would challenge those issues that we feel are germane to our own interest. Certainly we will do that. But the point I'm making is that even government itself must show, one, commitment to certain goals, that it is not enough to talk about indissolubility, because if at the end of the day what will make Nigeria great is a confederate nation, we should not run away from it. And I think it's good to underscore this, that what the conference should set out to achieve is to find the best mode of governance that is acceptable to all Nigerians. But the one that can do that is one in which every federating unit can go back and say, yes, we can develop within the means that we do have.
One of the things you mentioned, you
Yes.
said the Yoruba people.
Yes.
We have to remember that the conference is not exactly based on ethnic nationalities. I mean, so where do you have room for that?
No, but ethnic nationalities were the ones who gathered together prior to 1914. They were
Agreed.
the ones who were spoken to. They were
Agreed.
the ones who considered to work together.
Agreed. I mean,
And in any case,
let's
if you,
not
even if you
disagree
use-
with you. I'm simply saying that the modalities
Yes.
of this particular conference, they say it's been impossible to find all the ethnic groups because they're afraid that they might not be able to factor everyone in, and there's been no, scientific evidence to show just how many we are. So they have chosen another route. I mean, we've developed over time, and we have all these other groups that could also come together, be representative of Nigerians as well, and come together and discuss just what should keep us together as a nation.
But the interesting concept here is that those who went in search of the various other groups, leaving aside or giving little role to the ethnic nationalities, would also discover that in these all other groups, whether it's Women's Society, whether it is NLC, whether it is NECA, all of them, the people you will be taking out from there would either be Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa. And that was why I said we would challenge that system, because we would now be able to tell if NECA picks a Yoruba person, for instance, or NBA picks a Yoruba person, we should be able to challenge him and say, this is where the Yoruba people stand. In any case, he will know. So it really wouldn't matter. Initially, we felt that why move away from the ethnic nationalities? Because the ethnic nationalities provide the base. It is already acquired the experience in terms of negotiation all across the country, not only in Yoruba land, in terms of negotiation, exposure and all that. But if you want to make it sublime and you say Council of Women's Societies, NANS and all that, of course there must come a time when we say, who are the Yoruba people? Or the Igbos will say, who are the Igbo people?
Don't you think that is risky?
It's not risky.
Because I mean, there will also be very tiny minorities who might not get any representation. If eventually, in this representation, people begin to break into ethnic groups rather than, representing the bodies that they represent, don't you think that it could constitute a risk?
Tell me, what is at stake in the country? What is at stake is that people want to be ruled the way they want to be ruled. And it does not matter whether they are in NECA or in MBA, because they can identify one factor, which is that this country would have been greater, we would have had greater opportunities if the country is ruled in the way we would like to. And I want anybody to challenge this. In before the military really came in hard on the people of this country, we had the University of Ife that was established by the Western region, and then the Ahmadu Bello University that was established. And these are institutions that were thriving, and then suddenly the federal government acquired all of them. But we would find a situation in which the federal government at that time will have no role to play at all in primary education other than policy. Rather, now they go about the whole country building primary schools simply to award contracts, to have a big budget, which they lack the capacity to manage.
So, are you parliamentary button? So, are you saying now that if at the end of the day we'll get to this conference, discuss all we can discuss, yes, and not talk about the indivisibility of Nigeria, why we should stay together or otherwise, it won't matter much?
It will, well, if for instance we can discuss all matters under the sun,
except one.
But then there is no way you will not touch it. Let me put a hypothetical question. Suppose the South that produces oil states that we would like to have derivation. And I believe that every area has a productive base that can support derivation. Because when the federal system of government was in practice, we had a situation in which all the regions, relied on their own steam. Now that we had oil, should not change that. Now suppose they insist that, well, we would like to have derivation. The federal government can tax us, we don't mind, but derivation from the beginning. And somebody else says, no, you cannot have derivation. You think it will not get to a point in which people will say, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, they already said if you can achieve 75% consensus,
yes,
the matter will don't fail.
Then what would be the purpose in going to conference? Because you can hardly find an issue where you cannot find a small percentage of people ganging together to stonewall. To stonewall. And that is why people were saying, if there is a genuine belief that we are going into this conference, and you know that you've got something to lose, I've got something to lose, I'll be ready to make concessions. Forget about all these 75% and all that. If I know that the South people might say, well, we'll go away with our oil, and then we might become a little more reasonable and say, well, rather than allow them to go, why don't we meet them? But if you don't have that opportunity to be able to negotiate on a piecemeal basis, then you may not have a conference, because any small group can stonewall, and that means that there is no conference. Is that the intention of the government, that the status quo remains? And that's why people are talking about motives.
All right, well, we'll let the authorities leave them with that food for thought. Well, Honorable Wale Oshun is the former chief whip in the House of Representatives in the 92-93 era. Thank you for coming out this morning.
Thank you. I want to thank you for this opportunity. Also to add that as part of our own process of evolving and getting people to be aware that we will be having an event on the 12th in Ibadan on the issue of conference, enlightening our people the more.
Okay.
And
all right.
it will be good.
Okay then.
Yes.
All right. Well, back after this break. Please join us again.